What's going on, everybody? We are back to talk about the BMW Championship. We only have 2 weeks left in the playoffs, and then we turn the page to a new season, or I guess, the start of the next season. Can't remember if they do the wraparound or the calendar year. It's all confusing, as is the format of the playoffs. But we don't have these starting strokes to look forward to next week. It's just going to be everyone starts at even par, and then all 30 golfers are going to be in play. So that's going to be a lot of fun because prior to this year, it's like you can't really bet on anybody because there's only 2 or 3 golfers that really have a chance to win thanks to the starting strokes. And then if you wanted to bet the shadow leaderboard, it's kind of hard to keep track of. So I do like that they did away with the starting strokes, but we will see how that pans out. Again, I think starting everyone at even par at the very start of the playoffs and then going from there, having like a 3 tournament stretch of strokes would be cool. I think also, having the Tour Championship be some type of match play would be a lot of fun. I do miss the match play in Austin that I used to go to every year. But we're not here to talk about ways to fix the playoffs. We're here to talk about who is going to play well this week at the BMW Championship. Now, this event rotates venues every year, typically in the Northeast. So we haven't seen it be held at Caves Valley since 2021. That year, it played extremely easy. It was the second easiest course on the PGA Tour that year. Patrick Cantlay won with a winning score of 27 under par, and all 50 golfers ended up finishing under par. So we rarely see that in a no-cut event. But the course has undergone some major renovations in 2023. 2 of the par 5s were converted to par 4s, so it's going from a par 72 to a par 70. The entire turf of the course has been replaced. It's expected to be a lot firmer than it was before. A lot of the holes had some minor changes to them to make them a little bit more difficult. Some bunkers were replaced, things like that. So expected to play a lot tougher, both in terms of relative to par, thanks to the 2 holes changing from par 5s to par 4s. And then just overall, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I'm looking at a winning score probably in the 14 to 18 under par range. But it could obviously play more difficult because it is a 7,600-yard par 70, and there's only 2 par 5s on the scorecard. As far as the type of golfer that I'm looking for, this is a very wide course off the tee. A lot of the fairways are 40 yards wide, and a lot of the holes are very long. So I think bombers are going to have a big advantage here. We saw Bryson, Rory, Dustin Johnson, Cantlay all finish in the top 6 at this event in 2021. And golfers hit driver on 79% of their tee shots, which is one of the highest marks that we saw that year. So I do think it's going to be a bomber-friendly course. And if you're not a bomber, you better be good with your long irons because you're going to have a lot of 200-plus iron shots into these greens. The greens are 5,200 square feet on average, so a little bit smaller than tour average. They were easy to hit here in 2021, but I do think we're going to see them be a little bit more difficult to hit in the new look Caves Valley. So yeah, I'm looking for the strong tee to green types. I do think scrambling is going to be more important than most weeks, and if I'm negating any strokes gain stat, it's probably going to be putting. I'd rather take my chances with a good tee to green golfer than with somebody that relies on their putter, because I do think the course is going to play pretty tough this week. Now, let's take a look at the model. Again, if you are a premium member at RotoGrinders, you can download this model. You can customize it to your liking. So if you're reading a player quote that says distance is all that matters this week, you might just want to bump this up. You can put it at 5% over the different time frames and then bump down something else, and it'll automatically adjust the ratings for you. So it would obviously bump Henley down because he was number 6 in my model before making those adjustments. It would bump, Ludwig up, Kitayama up, Keegan Bradley up, Justin Thomas up. So all these guys that have some distance off the tee are going to get, a bump if you end up wanting to play that angle, or say you just think it's a putting course. You can bump up putting, bump down something else. You ultimately want the weight to be 100%, and that's what this here is for in column B1. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to play around. You can do all stats. You can do no stats. You can do all course history. We've only had 1 year of data when it comes to course history. So I do have that at 0% this week. But if you want to rely on that, even though the course has changed, you certainly can. I have 3 different comps that I played around with in the rabbit hole on Vespers. If you want to check that out, we do have a deal. You can sign up through that link and get a deal if you want to try out my favorite stat engine on the PGA Tour. So strokes gained in the Northeast over the last 4 years, we have Scheffler, Rory, Cantlay, Keegan, who always plays well in the Northeast, and then Xander. Strokes gained on very long courses. This is par adjusted. Scheffler, Xander, Rory, Morikawa, and Corey Connors. And then strokes gained in very strong fields because this is a good field and it's a no-cut event. Scheffler, once again, he's top in every single of these comps. Rory, Tommy, Henley, and Keegan Bradley. Then, as always, you can chase some more upside. Since there's no cut this week, I do think it makes sense to chase more upside. So I have top 5 percentile finish at 7%, top 10 at 5%, and then top 25 only at 3%. Then I have 7% weighted to over the last 3 months, raw strokes gained, over the last 12 months, raw strokes gained, and then the field strength index, which just helps equalize golfers who've been playing in some really easy fields compared to golfers who've been playing in the best fields. So guys that rack up good stats in easy fields are, going to project well if you don't have this field strength metric. So let's look at the overall ratings. At the very top, we do have Scotty Scheffler. No surprise there. I thought he was going to win last week, took the lead on the back nine, and then was ultimately passed by JJ Spawn and Justin Rose. Speaking of last week, really feel for Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, once again, it was kind of like similar to what we saw when he lost to Keegan Bradley earlier this year. He had the lead going into the day, played pretty bad on the front nine, lost the lead, and then made a charge on the back nine to get the lead back. You're thinking, okay, he's got some dog in him. He's going to finish this thing. And then just ran into a super hot golfer in, Spawn and Rose. They both kind of passed him up. He bogeyed one of the easier holes and didn't birdie the par 5 and ultimately didn't get into the playoffs. So feel for Tommy, but yeah, I hope he can get it done here one of these times. But anyway, at the very top, we do have Scheffler. It's kind of hard to make a lineup that I feel great about that's going to be unique with Scheffler. So I'm probably not going to use a ton of him. I do think he's the best player on the board, but this is one of those weeks where I want to be a little bit different. So I like starting lineups with Cantlay. Again, he did win here in 2021. He finished T9 last week, gained 6.4 strokes ball striking last week. He's good in the Northeast, and he seems to play his best in the playoffs every year. I think, you can come up with a number of reasons why. But he's one of those guys that loves to get paid, wants to get paid for the Ryder Cup, wants to get paid for every little thing, always wants to earn more money. He's on the board, the PGA Tour, trying to get more money for all these guys. So maybe that's why he plays his best, because this is the most lucrative point of the season. He's got a great track record at the BMW, great track record at the Tour Championship, and obviously he played well, last week in Memphis too. So I do like Cantlay. Makes a lot of sense to me. A little bit more balance. I think you're naturally going to be way unique if you do start with somebody other than Scheffler, and you can kind of play two of these 10K guys together. So I like Cantlay. I like Ludwig quite a bit, even though he doesn't project that well for me. He's very good off the tee, one of the best drivers of the ball in the world. He's gained strokes on approach in 7 straight events. And yeah, I like him on these championship level golf courses, and at 7,600 yards, I certainly think this qualifies as one of those. No issue with Rory. He didn't play in Memphis last week, but 3 straight top 10 finishes for him. T4 here in 2021. Tommy, I don't know how he's going to respond. Doesn't have the distance angle that I'm kind of looking for this week, so I probably won't play a ton of Tommy. I'm okay with Xander, but the driver hasn't been great this year, so that worries me a little bit. Strokes gained off the tee just hasn't been great. It's been better over the last 3 months, but again, last year he was one of the best drivers of the ball in the world. Then you have Henley at 9,700. Again, he doesn't have the distance that I'm looking for. He does have the long irons that can kind of make up for a lack of distance. So I don't hate him, but I think he's like top 15 probably. I don't know if he can finish in the top 5 at a course like this. JT, his driver can be really hit or miss. That worries me. So I'm probably starting with Cantlay and Ludwig, or I would start with Scheffler. I think those are the 2 options that I'm kind of looking at in my main lineup this week. Let's move down a little bit more. I like Corey Connors at 8,400. He finished T50 last week out of 69 golfers. Not great, but he did gain 5 strokes on approach. Finished T10 at the Open. I know he's been dealing with a little bit of a wrist issue, but he's played 3 events since then, hasn't had to withdraw, so I'm not too worried about it. Keegan Bradley, again, if you want to play the Northeast narrative, you certainly can, but his best golf hasn't been recently. 41st, 30th, miscut, 44th. T60 here in 2021. But I do like the price point. The model likes him, so I'm okay with him. Morikawa just hasn't been playing his best. T22 last week was okay, but he was up higher, the first 2 days of the tournament. Prior to that, he had back-to-back miscuts. So I'm a little bit hesitant on Morikawa right now. He obviously fired his caddy recently. Finally picked up a new caddy, but that could take some time to gel. Then we have Ben Griffin, similar to Russell Henley. I mean, I think he's got the long iron play needed to make up for a lack of distance. But actually, now that I look at it, top 15 in distance over the last 3 months. So maybe we can look at somebody like Ben Griffin here. Don't think he's going to be very popular. Back-to-back top 11 finishes. Maybe he is a guy that I want to look to a little bit harder. Spawn coming off the great week. I don't know what to do with him. He's been pretty hit or miss, but he's shown up in some very good fields. Kitayama, my favorite point per dollar option on the board. So he picked up a win at the 3M, then finished T31, then finished T9 last week. He's gained at least 3 strokes ball striking in 5 straight events. And we've seen him win a signature event before. So we know we can get it done in these strong fields. No strong take on Hideki, Burns. Goddard's got the distance, but coming off a pretty bad week. McIntyre was kind of all short game last week, but he can pop on some of these more difficult courses. I do like McNeely. He's one of those solid all-around guys. I do like Pendrith. He's a bomber that can make a lot of putts that should play well at a course like this. English tends to be a great U.S. Open player. And this kind of reminds me of a U.S. Open course. I know it probably won't be very difficult compared to a U.S. Open course, but it's long. You hit a lot of drivers, so might be a guy that you want to look at. Cam Young's been in great form. Coming off of the win and then the top 5, I could see him playing well, but I do think 9,800 is a little bit steep for me. But if you want to look his way, you certainly can. Hovland in large field tournaments, I can get behind. Fitz, let's see how his distance is this year. Close to field average. Approach play has been better, but he's kind of been relying on a hot short game. And on a course like this, I do think hot tee to green is going to be better than a hot short game. See, Berger, man, really let me down last week in Memphis. I do like Sam Stevens at 6,500, a guy that's pretty long off the tee, top 15 in this field in distance, and he's played well on some longer courses. So 3M, he finished top 3, finished top 3 at the Farmers as well. So I think he's a guy that I want to look to at 6,500. And then let's just see if there's anybody else that's really long off the tee down in the value range. You got Ryan Fox, who hit or miss, but I mean, he's a top 15 ball striker in this field for a good price point. Johnny Vegas, pretty good week last week, T14. He's only 6,100. He's got plenty of distance. And then Dietrich, kind of the same thing. You know, good off the tee, decent distance. Form's been hit or miss, but T38 last week. So that'll do it. I'll try to be back for the Tour Championship. It's only going to be 30 golfers, so it'll probably be a pretty short video. But hey, we went for over 12 minutes this week for the BMW Championship. My outrights, I got Cantlay, I got Ludwig, and I have Kitayama for the week. So let's hit one of those. Appreciate you guys joining me. Hit that thumbs up button before you leave, and we'll catch you back here next week.